The following admonition from the Edgar Cayce readings strikes the keynote for working with two important disciplines, two essential tools for conquering fear. Don't let a day go by without meditation and prayer for some definite purpose, and not for self, but that self may be the channel of help to someone else. It is true that we may awaken to anxiety born of our rebelliousness, or we may realize that a particular fear may be caused by improper physical functioning, a suppressed childhood memory, or even an unsuspected deeper memory from a previous life. Nevertheless, it is essential to control the mind, for it is the builder. Prayer and meditation are two of our most ancient training devices to accomplish control. More important, they are widely accepted today as two excellent methods for focusing the mind. There is now a growing acceptance of the relationship of the mind and emotions to the physical body. Edgar Cayce recommended prayer and meditation frequently for dealing with many different types of problems, especially fear. After 1923, when Edgar Cayce began suggesting to those who sought his help that studying their own dreams would be beneficial, I began to record mine. I discovered that symbols frequently recurred in different settings. A young, disreputable character appeared again and again. He smoked, seemed to be drunk at times, and frequently smiled slyly as he winked at me. Gradually, I became afraid of him. In one dream, I met this character at night, leaning against a lamp post on a dimly lit street. As I came opposite him, he threw a cigarette away and unexpectedly tackled me around the knees. We both rolled into filthy water flowing at the pavement curb. This dream seems to have been a warning, for shortly after it I faced some difficult temptations. I should point out that this character looked very much like an ill-kempt me, and I took him to be a symbol of my lower self. He continued to get me into a variety of difficulties. Finally, I began to pray for him. In one dream, he complained bitterly that I was taking unfair advantage. Nevertheless, my life was easier after that. Prayer can be used in many ways. Meditation is different from prayer. I had a strange and rather beautiful meditation experience many years ago, about a month after I had begun daily 30-minute meditation periods. It was spring, and I was seated looking out a window on the third floor of an oceanfront home. After following the quieting procedures, which are outlined later, a stillness came over me that was almost painful in intensity. Then an incredible humming started in my head. It was like the sound children hear when they place their ears against a pole supporting high-tension electrical wires. Then came the most beautiful music I have ever heard. I have no words with which to describe those sounds. Through the years, I have been diligent for long periods of time about meditating daily, but there has never been a repetition of this experience. It may happen, though, tomorrow or the next day. Edgar Cayce clarified the relationship between prayer and meditation for me in the following statements. Prayer is the making of one's conscious self more in tune with the spiritual forces that may manifest in a material world. The pouring out of the personality of the individual or a group who enter in for the purpose of either outward show to be seen of men, or that enter in even as in the closet of one's inner self and pours out self that the inner man may be filled with the Spirit of the Father in his merciful kindness to men. Prayer is the concerted effort of the physical consciousness to become attuned to the consciousness of the Creator, either collectively or individually. Meditation is the attuning of the mental body and the physical body to its spiritual source. Meditation, then, is prayer, but prayer from within the inner self, and partakes not only of the physical inner man, but the soul that is aroused by the spirit of man from within. Meditation is the emptying self of all that hinders the creative forces from rising along the natural channels. The reference here is to the endocrine gland centers corresponding to the chakras of the physical man, to be disseminated through those centers and sources that create the activities of the physical, the mental, the spiritual man. Properly done must make one stronger mentally, physically. Let us turn now to a more detailed examination of these two disciplines. At some time in his or her life, almost every person deals with prayer in one way or another. For many people in our Western culture, it is a childhood experience suggested by parents or society and pushed aside as the excitement of living becomes more demanding. With prayer, as with meditation, it is important for us not only to know something about the nature of the subject, but also to practice what is known with some diligence if results of a positive nature are to occur. We cannot wait until an emergency is on us and then expect magical results. Reading about and watching tennis being played is pleasant and helpful. But only practice, and a great deal of it, enables one to hit the ball back with any regularity. You must decide for yourself where you are. How much do you know about it, and how often do you practice prayer? If you are just beginning, set aside only 10 or 15 minutes for prayer and meditation. Pray, then meditate, then always pray again. Later you may wish to divide the time between prayer and meditation as you begin to enjoy both disciplines and see the results in your life and in that of others. However, remember to pray at least briefly for yourself and others after every meditation. You will see the advantages of this later. Deal concretely with situations and people as you pray. Work directly with God or with whatever you call the creative power of the universe. This may be done verbally or in silence, using words or pictures. With the phrase "How gracious is thy presence in the earth, O Lord, I saw a white dogwood in full bloom," followed quickly by the memory of my wife's smile. And begin to experiment with various kinds of prayer. Let us consider a few types briefly. Praise and adoration offer endless experiences of joy as we recognize the beauty and complexity of God's universe. The movement of an ant, the lapping of ocean waves, the beauty of sunlight, or the magnificence of a star-filled sky at night provide opportunities for recognizing the creative energy and expression all about us. Only as we comprehend the presence of life everywhere are we able to sense our own part in the plan and open our own lives to more creative expression of the life. Once we extend this type of prayer, every moment of the day will bring reasons for thoughts and words that express our new acceptance of God's grace, His love. Prayers of thanksgiving are very helpful. Few of us say thank you often enough to our family and friends, much less to our Creator. The Psalms are filled with prayers of thanksgiving. We need to develop our own phrases to escape repetition, which can become automatic. Saying grace before meals offers a continuous opportunity for growth and change of expression. We come now to a more familiar type of prayer. Petition. Even constructive thought can be a prayer, for we act as God's instruments. We can give a simple blessing, a hope expressed for protection, a thought of light around a name or face. Or we can offer a more sustained, continued healing prayer. Here it is important to make an effort to secure the cooperation of the person involved. Also, we need to be careful to seek God's will, not our own. Many of us find prayer groups especially helpful in studying and working with healing prayer. Through our association, which presents and encourages work with concepts from the Edgar Cayce readings, more than 1,600 international groups working with meditation are assisted in using healing prayer at weekly meetings. In petitionary prayer, we should not neglect ourselves. In my own experience, meditation frequently is almost impossible without prayer, and prayer is greatly helped by meditation. Prayer for oneself is a way of recognizing the creative side of one's nature. It is a way of expressing love of self, without which there can be little real love of others. Almost every person has sought the help of a higher power in meeting difficult circumstances, in facing trials. But how often do we remember to seek attunement through prayer for our own illness and pain? In one reading, Edgar Cayce suggested, "When fear of the future occurs, or fear of the past, or fear of what others will say, put all such away with this prayer, not merely by mouth, not merely by thought, but in body, in mind and in soul say, Here am I, Lord. Thine. Keep me in the way thou would have me go, rather than in that I might choose." Every moment of silence is an opportunity for prayer. Sometimes, after a requested moment of silence before a lecture, I have told an audience that if I knew how individuals spent that moment of silence, I could tell where the person was on the spiritual path. What do you do with silence? A final and very important kind of prayer is confession. Both the Catholic Church and psychiatry have developed confession as a healing device. In my opinion, an individual can use it very effectively in clearing specific blocks, especially those of fear. Let us assume that you are afraid to attempt a public speech. Try facing such a situation in a period of confessional prayer, in the quiet of your own heart and mind. See yourself talking before an audience. Admit the fear and feel it. Sense the tension in your own body. Speak to yourself, relax, turn loose, let go. Feel the tension flow away. Reassure yourself that you can and will be able to handle such a situation. Don't do this just once. Try this again and again until you are ready to tackle the actual experience of talking before a group. Pray that you can and will be able to handle the situation. You will gradually lose your fear to the point of being able to speak. Many of us are unaware of the blocks we store in our unconscious that involve fear of people. Try the following exercise once each day for 5 days. Examine the results. You will be surprised at your changed attitude, which frequently will include a freedom from fear in relation to the person you have in mind. Examine a good relationship through the following questions. Sit relaxed, close your eyes, and visualize the person you have loved or do love the most. Read each question slowly. Allow a whole minute to answer from within before going on to the next step. Have you ever felt it desirable or necessary to protect this person physically? How? Have you ever felt any other relationship than the one existing? Do other people remind you of this person? How do you feel? Do you have an economic relationship with this person? How has this person helped you? Imagine a past relationship that could have made you feel as you do now. Have you ever felt that way about the person now? Would you wish to see this person in another life? In another relationship? Spend half a minute thinking constructively about relating to this person. Pray for this individual for half a minute, in your own way. Send love to this person for half a minute, in your own way. Now examine the most difficult relationship you have experienced in this life, whether the person is alive or dead. Relax, close your eyes, and see the face of that person. Hear his or her voice and see the face as you ask yourself the following questions. Use the same method as for the preceding questions. What is the most irritating thing this person does? Did you first love this person before having difficulty with him or her? Review the first difficulty with the individual. What was the basic cause of this difficulty? Have you ever wanted to kill this person? Strike this person? Have you ever feared this person? Are there physical characteristics about this person that you dislike very much? Have you ever felt any other relationship, father, mother, brother, friend, to this person than that which now exists? Spend half a minute forgiving yourself for specific things you did in the relationship. Silently, for half a minute, ask forgiveness of God for your attitude in the past and or present. Silently, for half a minute, forgive the person for any hurt rendered you. Pray for the person. Bless him or her. For half a minute. Begin to extend and enrich your prayer life. Nothing but good can result. Edgar Cayce further defines the process of meditation thus. As has been given, there are definite conditions that arise from within the inner man when an individual enters into true or deep meditation. A physical condition happens, a physical activity takes place. Acting through what? Through that man has chosen to call the imaginative or the impulsive, and the sources of impulse are aroused by the shutting out of thought pertaining to activities or attributes of the carnal forces of man. Most of us do not realize how much time and energy we spend on thinking about and feeling the energized emotions we store as thought patterns related to the body's activities. A brief review of a day's thought on exercise, eating, and sex can help us to understand the concept that the body-mind complex is all there is of us. Few of us have seen a purely spiritual being or a soul running around without a body. Meditation is a procedure for awakening the spiritual part of us. It is, in essence, the quickening of the soul, the discovery of the eternal self. Many people approach this awakening through a born-again conversion experience. Such people give themselves to Christ or God through Christ. Or to some other world teacher or guru who claims a private connection with the Creator. This can be good, depending on what results this experience produces in the daily life. An approach that includes meditation develops control of the mind and emotions, enabling the individual to sustain, enrich, and deepen the attunement. This leads to the growth of new capacities for love of and service to one's fellow beings. The mystical literature of every major world religion testifies to this point of view. God literally speaks to us where we are, in our own temple and body consciousness. As Paul, the New Testament writer of church letters who himself had a conversion experience, wrote, "Ye are the temple of the living God." Thus, whether you are a born-again Christian, a religious intellectual, or a hardened materialist refusing to believe in things of a spiritual nature, you may well find the prayer meditation approach helpful. The proof of this pudding is in the eating. Results speak for themselves. The Edgar Cayce readings present some challenging ideas on the goals of meditation. For example, for learning the deep meditation and this ability to use that which is the birthright of each and every soul. For the soul entity is in the image of the Creator. Then we find in the material body those patterns, those manners, those means. For indeed he hath given and has purposed that no soul shall lose its way, but he hath prepared for every soul the ways, the means of that soul, knowing that he, Jesus, the Christ, is not only the way, but is the directing of the individual in the daily experiences. If you walk and talk with him. The Edgar Cayce readings are Christ-centered. They not only explain the concept of Jesus, who exemplified Christ consciousness, but also develop a universal treatment of Christ consciousness. The following quotations suggest this theme. All must pass under the rod as of that of cleansing necessary for the inflowing of the Christ consciousness, even as he passed under the rod, partook of the cup, and gives same to others. Not so much self-development, but rather developing the Christ consciousness in self, being selfless, that he may have his way with thee, that he, the Christ, may direct thy ways, that he will guide thee in the things thou doest, thou sayest. Healing vibration is, in its simple essence or word, raising the Christ consciousness in self to such an extent as it may flow out of self to him, thou wouldst direct it to. It is just as necessary that there be food for the spiritual and mental man as for the physical man. For the Lord in his temple in thee meets thee there. Meditate upon those activities that may be motivated by the desires of the inner self rather than the glorification of the material self. You have the meditation because you desire to be attuned with creative forces. You don't have the meditation because it's a duty or because you want to feel better, but to attune self to the infinite. Very concrete goals are defined for meditation. Become, then, a channel of blessings to others, and thus may the beauties of the heavenly forces, as may be expressed in such, be thine very own. Beauty for beauty's sake. Love that it may be the manifestations of not bodily emotions, but rather those that show forth his activity in and among men. These are the criteria for every individual's experience: sincerity of purpose, of desire. Putting the whole law into effect in the activities. Which is to love the Lord, thy God, with all thy heart, thy mind, thy body, and thy neighbor as thyself. As we awaken greater capacities for love and service, we become more creative, more attuned to the force we worship. The Creator. This goal of meditation is indeed the purpose of our unfoldment on earth. The great mystical literature of every world religion contains descriptions of light-filled experiences of the great contemplatives. Muhammad's light-filled cave. Moses's burning bush. Saul's, Paul, blinding light on the road to Damascus. Boehm's light-filled cobbler shop. Pascal's, Whitman's, and Plotinus's fire experiences. And Krishna's Lord of Light are just a few. Average people have such experiences every day in lesser measure. William James, the American psychologist and investigator of psychic experiences, describes many encounters with light in his Varieties of religious experience. Richard Maurice Bucke, superintendent of a mental hospital in Canada, wrote his well-known Cosmic Consciousness, a study of the evolution of the human mind, after having a personal fire experience in which his carriage was bathed in flames that did not burn it. One of the founders of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson, spoke in a lecture of an experience with light in a hospital room. This led to the development of an organization that has helped thousands of people. The Edgar Cayce readings on meditation make many references to light. For example, in a booklet on Affirmations for meditation, there are 19 references to light, including the following. Our Father and our God, show mercy and truth, light and justice in my mind, in my body, that it may be renewed to a life of service for thee in the Christ. O God of mercy and light. Father, Mother God, here am I weak, unworthy though I may be, I come seeking divine light. And in one reading a light experience is described in this fashion. Thus, as we will find, we will come to see not only the light but, by the deep meditation, may enter in and become a portion of the light that may bring helpful healing attributes to the psychological conditions in the body. When we turn to the New Testament and Jesus' statements about light, we can understand this symbol from the background of our own culture. Ye are the light of the world. Let your light so shine before man. I am the light of the world. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. In the last verse, Jesus may well be speaking directly of a meditation experience, with reference to the third eye, the major chakra of the body, the pituitary gland center. In Life After Life, by Moody, practically all the death experiences of people who recovered to describe them involved light. Sometimes it was a ball, a point, a tunnel to be followed. Sometimes a light filled the consciousness. Sometimes a lighted figure was seen. Thus discovery of the light becomes symbolically, perhaps literally, a goal of meditation. Now let us turn to a parallel study of meditation from a Chinese classic, The Secret of the Golden Flower. Through oral tradition, this ancient Chinese Taoist treatise can be traced back to the 8th century. It contains a variety of interesting parallels, both theoretical and technical, with the Edgar Cayce readings on meditation. Between 15 and 20 times during his 43 years of involvement in psychic work, Edgar Cayce remembered traveling on a shaft of light while in the sleep-like trance state from which he gave his psychic discourses. During such periods, he recalled observing activity on a variety of planes of consciousness. This travel with light is only one important parallel with the Chinese text. The following 4 purposes for meditation methods are outlined in Jung's introduction to The Secret of the Golden Flower. First, meditation is described as an assured way of enhancing psychic perception. There are many references to this possibility in the readings. For example, far as we find this entity has more than once been among those who were gifted with what is sometimes called second sight or the superactivity of the third eye. Whenever there is the opening, then, of the light in Leydig center and the Kundalini forces from along the pineal, we find that there are visions of things to come, of things that are happening. Second, meditation is a procedure for reaching a new state of consciousness. In Taoism, the goal is to preserve in a transfigured form the idea of the person, the traces left by experience. In the Edgar Cayce readings, this same idea is expressed as follows: that it, the entity, may know itself to be itself and part of the whole. Not the whole but one with the whole. And thus retain its individuality, knowing itself to be itself yet one with the purpose of the first cause that called it, the entity, into being, into the awareness, into the consciousness of itself. Third, meditation is described as a way of preparing for the afterlife. This is very interesting compared with Edgar Cayce's travels through planes that are obviously states of consciousness after so-called death. Raymond Moody's descriptions of such planes in the death experiences also seem similar. Phrased in another way, consider this statement from Edgar Cayce on meditation. It is hard at times for the individual to visualize that the mental and soul may manifest without a physical vehicle. Yet in the deeper meditations, in those experiences when those influences may arise, when the spirit of the creative force, the universality of soul, of mind, not as material, not as judgments, not in time and space, but of time and space, may become lost in the whole, instead of the entity being lost in the maze of confusing influences. Then the soul visions arise in the meditations. And, fourth, meditation affects the chakras, producing strength, rejuvenation, healing, and so on. Chakras are the endocrine gland centers, as the psychiatrist C.G. Jung points out in his commentary. In the Edgar Cayce readings, we find references such as this. The spiritual contact is through the glandular forces of creative energies, not encased only within the light and gland of reproduction, for this is ever, so long as life exists, in contact with the brain cells through which there is the constant reaction through the pineal. The following has been quoted earlier, but it bears repeating here in part. Meditation is emptying self of all that hinders the creative forces from rising along the natural channels. Properly done must make one stronger mentally, physically. We come now to a very important parallel in the meditation concepts from the 2 sources under consideration. In the Edgar Cayce readings, we find this. The spirit and the soul is within its encasement, or its temple within the body of the individual. See? With the arousing then of this image, it rises along that which is known as the Appian Way. The Appian Way is an ancient road leading directly to Rome, the capital of the empire, or the pineal center, to the base of the brain, that it may be disseminated to those centers that give activity to the whole of the mental and physical being. It rises then to the hidden eye. The hidden eye is the pituitary gland, the master control center for the endocrine system, in the center of the brain system, or is felt in the forefront of the head, or the place just above the real face or bridge of nose. See in The Secret of the Golden Flower, this motion is called the backward flowing motion. In the moment of release, it is not allowed to flow outward, but is led back by the force of thought, so that it penetrates the crucible of the creative and refreshes and nourishes heart and body. This is the backward flowing method of meditation. The seed blossoms of the human body must be concentrated upward in the empty space. Immortality is contained in this sentence, and also the overcoming of the world is contained in it. This is the common goal of all religions. Both the Edgar Cayce readings and the Taoist treatise develop the direct way, the backward flowing motion. Most of us, in everyday life, direct the energy of our bodies outward in a multitude of ways. Consider, for example, how complicated the sexual expression of this energy is. This is the same energy that activates the adrenal center to express anger, hate, fear, drive, persistence, or courage. That activates the thymus center, through which we express, with the same energy, friendliness, warmth, outgoingness, self-condemnation, depression, or withdrawal. There is just one energy. We direct it through our minds and emotions in many outward expressions. The Secret of the Golden Flower puts it this way. To concentrate the seed flower of the human body above in the eyes, that is the great key of the human body. Children, take heed. If for a day you do not practice meditation, this light streams out, who knows whither. If you only meditate for a quarter of an hour, by it you can do away with the 10,000 eons and 1,000 births. All methods end in quietness. Most of us spend a great deal of time and energy wrestling with ourselves, fighting the thought forms that we continue to feed and build each time we allow mind and emotions to dwell on negative thought processes. Self-pity, anger, hate, and lust are well known, but one of the most destructive is fear. It has so many faces. The direct way of meditation. That is, channeling our creative energies through the higher centers, rather than directing it outwardly as we do in anger, sex, self-pity, and so on, is recommended as an integral part of our plan to redirect the energies we use in fear experiences. What exactly happens when we meditate, opening ourselves to a spiritual purpose, a spiritual alignment of the body and mind? As I understand it, there is a direct movement of the energy from the latic, gonadadrenal area of the body to the pineal center, and then to the control center, the pituitary complex. Symbolized by the cup, the well-known phrase from the 23rd Psalm, "My cup runneth over," takes on new meaning. The Edgar Cayce readings describe this connection as follows. In the body we find that which connects the pineal, the pituitary, the light and latic may be truly called the silver cord, or the golden cup that may be filled with a closer walk with that which is the creative essence in physical, mental, and spiritual life. Indeed, the readings go on to suggest that the higher spiritual centers have become atrophied from non-usage. Only the desires of the appetite, self-indulgences and such, have so glossed over or used up the abilities in these directions that they become only wastes as it were in the spiritual life of an individual who has so abused or misused those abilities that have been given him for the greater activity. In his commentary on The Secret of the Golden Flower, Jung points out that the East has sought to master the inner world, disregarding the masses, while the West has sought mastery of the outer world, without much consideration for the inner aspects of humanity. In the West, matter is being conquered, but not the self. Continuous war results. A mental ride through the suburbs of Bombay and a walk through the German prison camps of World War II can focus this thought for you. Perhaps in our time we are seeing a constructive blending of both Eastern and Western points of view. Indeed, it seems to me that if we consider rebirth as a pattern of our evolution in the earth, an exchange of souls may be going on. For example, many English people are apparently being reborn in India, while Hindus and Buddhists are being reborn in England and America. Using the direct way of meditation can bring a new understanding of the true nature of the self. A better balance of the inner and outer worlds can be achieved. This brings us to a consideration of a startling idea found in Edgar Cayce's discourses. That we have chosen physical consciousness as a diversion from the real life of the spirit. This does not lead to an attempt to escape from life, as one might first think, but rather to a healing of self to become a new, reborn person, as the diamond body of the Chinese text is gradually created. The diamond body, as the end product of Chinese alchemy, is a symbolic description of the healed ego, or, in Gurdjieff terms, the new man. Meditation allows the movement in our consciousnesses toward new understandings. Another frame of reference may be more acceptable to many in our Western culture. John the Baptist, a man sent from God, came baptizing people with water. A symbol, shall we say, of spirit. Bringing repentance and a changed life for many. Yet he proclaimed that one who was to follow him would baptize by fire and would proclaim the coming of the Holy Spirit. Jesus did just that, but he also healed. He taught in no uncertain terms a new way of life. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. Whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you, love your enemies. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And all these things shall be added unto you. A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another. Let not your heart be troubled. And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another Comforter. To me, these quotations speak of the new consciousness that is possible for us all. Prayer and meditation are the ways to this end and to greater freedom from our fears, especially those related to doubts of God, neighbor, and self. What can we expect as results of meditation? Perhaps at this point a brief description of the first physical and mental reactions to meditation will be helpful. The body demands attention. The chair may be hard or the mouth dry. Tension or itching may be experienced. And so on. Physical sensations differ according to the condition of the person. At the same time, the conscious mind may jump quickly from one thought to another in an endless sequence. Suddenly, consciousness may be flooded by a series of strange pictures, colors, faces, or scenes. They come from the unconscious and should not be considered, or they will multiply and take one away from the true purpose of meditation. Persist in daily practice sessions, and quietness of body and mind will result. Many people notice greater body control as the first good effect of meditation. It is possible to quiet the body more quickly. Short periods of rest and sleep come easily and renew body energies. For a short time, a person may become more aware of bodily discomforts, but then there are readjustments, bringing healing. As the Edgar Cayce discourses put it. Thus a meditation, a centralizing, a localizing of the mind upon those portions of the system affected, or upon the activities needed for the physical being, influences, directs the principal forces of the system. And it does resuscitate. Gradually, the conscious mind becomes more controllable. It becomes possible to give up negative thoughts of gossip, filth, violence, fear, and so on. It is important to recognize that meditation does not result in some special vision or experience that overwhelms the meditator, but rather in a gradual change of one's whole life pattern, a refocusing on a more positive or spiritual attitude. Long-range results may include greater activity of the three higher endocrine gland centers, chakras: the thyroid, the pineal, and the pituitary. The thyroid seems to be related to willpower, which increases. Most of us know what to do, we simply do not have the will to do it. Meditation strengthens the will. The pineal center involves memory, knowledge of the soul itself. Its awakening or opening may offer knowledge of what one needs to move ahead, to grow. A new talent may develop, or recognition of the right direction for action, or identification of an old friend from another time and place. Finally, the pituitary can bring new capacities for service. One becomes a better channel for healing, a more creative and loving person. Meditation is a lighted path. The shadows of fear are dispelled, and one begins a more purposeful life. Let us turn now to the first simple step for making prayer and meditation a part of your way of life. Choose a period of 15 minutes that you can set aside during each day for this purpose. Using the same time and same place in the beginning helps you establish a habit. As you begin, play a recording of music while you are adjusting your body. Your back must be straight as if there were an imaginary line from the center of your head to the base of your spine. You may wish to move your head forward, backward, and to each side 3 or 4 times. Always begin from an upright position and then rotate your head first one way and then the other. This increases circulation through the upper gland centers. Then take 3 deep breaths, slowly, 3 times through the right nostril and exhale through the mouth. Then 3 times through the left nostril and out the right. This, too, stimulates the circulation and helps you come to full consciousness. You may then want to read an inspirational selection such as those recommended in the Edgar Cayce readings. John 14, 15, 16, and 17. Or some of your favorite psalms. As you continue to work with meditation, you may wish to extend this reading to such material as the Bhagavad Gita, the Persian poets, or other selections. For some, incense may be helpful, as well as chanting of the vowel sounds, e-i-o-u, or the syllable om. Eventually, working in meditation with a small group, which need not be physically present, can prove most helpful. Focus the mind on an affirmation. What, you may ask, is a proper affirmation? Let me suggest a few from those given by Edgar Cayce to the first group to which he gave a series of trance readings on meditation. Not my will but thine, O Lord, be done in and through me. Let me ever be a channel of blessings, today, now, to those that I contact in every way. Let my going in, my coming out be in accord with that thou would have me do. And as the call comes, here am I, send me, use me. Father, as we seek to see and know thy face, may we each, as individuals and as a group, come to know ourselves, even as we are known, that we, as lights in thee, may give the better concept of thy spirit in this world. Create in me a pure heart, O God. Open thou mine heart to the faith thou hast implanted in all that seek thy face. Help thou my unbelief in my God, in my neighbor, in myself. As my body, mind and soul are one, thou, O Lord, in the manifestations in the earth, in power, in might, in glory, art one. May I see in that I do, day by day, more of that realization, and manifest the more. Let the knowledge of the Lord so permeate my being that there is less and less of self, more and more of God, in my dealings with my fellow man. That the Christ may be in all, through all, in his name. Open thou mine eyes, O God, that I may know the glory thou hast prepared for me. Such affirmations contain statements of spiritual purposes and goals. They focus conscious attention on new commitments of love and service. They are more than this, however. As you continue to hold one of these affirmations, first as words, then in terms of total meaning, and finally as an inner quickening or movement, you awaken the spiritual purposes buried deep within your real or soul self. Try taking one of these affirmations apart word by word. Consider the meaning of each word for you. It may help you to write this out or discuss and share your observations with other people who are also working with the same affirmation, hence the repeated reference to the help that can be achieved with a small meditation group. The affirmation is the key to inner movement. It may work as follows. As considered earlier in this book, mind seems to be present in the cell structure of the body tissue. Literally millions of cells are dying each moment, and others are being reborn. It is possible that thought energy impregnated with spiritual patterns gradually tunes more and more of the physical vibrations to the soul's model. Thus there is both an alignment process and an awakening stimulus. You need only to test this for yourself. The practice of meditation has been used for a very long time very successfully. Problems in meditation are like those experienced by the great materialist turned theologian, Saint Augustine, who is reputed to have prayed, "Lord, make me pure, but not now." Determination is required to master the forces that would bind us to materiality and prevent realization of our true selves as spiritual beings. Persistence in meditation brings quietness. For many people, with this quietness comes light. These are only signs along the way. Inner changes come so quickly, so unobtrusively, that others may notice a difference before the meditator does. Your anger may no longer be instantaneous. You may feel greater joy in little experiences. A fear may disappear. Experiences during meditation are almost as varied as the individuals who meditate. Some of the more frequently reported include tingling along the spine and limbs, fullness and tightness in various gland centers, heat, especially in hands and head. Awareness of body noises not usually heard. Seeming movement of the body back and forth, from side to side, or a spinning sensation. Coolness on the forehead. Seeming elongation or swelling of the body. Sense of being out of body. And pain in the head or in other parts of the body. For the most part, these are very normal realignments, adjustments, and awarenesses of circulation flow and nerve energy. If such sensations are overwhelming, stop and pray. Then go on. There are warnings set forth, however, in both the Edgar Cayce data and the Taoist treatise to which we have referred. In general, these warnings can be classified under three headings: physical difficulties, ego trips in a world of illusion, and fear of the unknown. In a number of different readings, Edgar Cayce warned people who were suffering from bodily malfunctions to stop meditation until the body was in better physical condition. Sometimes bad spinal alignment, heavy drugs, or glandular imbalance were indicated. The Taoist treatise urged meditators to get up and move about in order to throw off tendencies to sleep or the onset of heavy, negative thought patterns. In considering what I have called ego trips, becoming involved with faces, scenes, and so on that appear, the Taoist meditation guidance includes a vivid passage that should be considered carefully. Furthermore, one must not fall victim to the ensnaring world. The ensnaring world is where the 5 kinds of dark demons disport themselves. This is the case, for example, when, after fixation, one has chiefly thoughts of dry wood and dead ashes, and few thoughts of the bright spring on the great earth. In this way one sinks into the world of the dark. The energy is cold there, breathing is rough, and many images of coldness and decay present themselves. If one tarries there long, one enters the world of plants and stones. Nor must a man be led astray by the 10,000 ensnarements. This happens if, after the quiet state has begun, one after another all sorts of ties suddenly appear. One wants to break through them and cannot. One follows them and feels as if relieved by this. This means the master has become the servant. If a man tarries in this stage long, he enters the world of illusory desires. Do not deny too quickly the existence of dark demons as a Chinese fantasy. As any good psychiatrist will tell you, our unconscious contains some very real demons of hate, fear, and so on. At its deeper mind levels we may store up memories of failure, hurts, and guilt. The Chinese description as dry wood and dead ashes is very apt. And what about dead relatives about whom we feel guilt, hate, and fear? These are ties and attachments, just as surely as are the love of power, money, or possessions. To avoid demons, it is important to set an ideal before beginning meditation and use a spiritually focused affirmation. Finally, some people fear meditation as a door to the inner world. Such people need to consider and work with all possible causes of their fear and the solutions offered in this book. Doubt of one's own value and lack of self-love is involved here and must be faced. As one persists in meditation, loneliness and doubt of God and self fade because the real self, the soul, awakens. Finally, as we conclude this section on meditation, let us consider dreams as the language of the unconscious, which can help us understand one of the ways we have kept the mystery of our own spiritual nature alive through the ages. I must admit right away that this is an inadequate treatment of a complicated subject and that it is also a personal interpretation. However, if these suggestions start you searching for your own inner symbology, you will begin to learn the language of your own unconscious and begin to deal more directly with new aspects of yourself. Some time ago, in an essay I wrote for a booklet on dreams, I called dreams the language of the unconscious. This is true. However, a more comprehensive expression would be symbology. Through dreams, the most private source of symbols, we can come to recognize two major kinds: personal and universal. We build up personal symbols around thought forms constructed out of experiences. Universal symbology is our way of recognizing and using symbols preserved by groups and masses of people through ritual, art forms, legends, fairy tales, and so on. Both types of symbols are used by each of us, I believe, to keep alive the secret knowledge of the spiritual self. Let's focus our attention on the endocrine gland centers, the chakras of the finer body, which can be conscious of out-of-body experiences, and which is thought to be preserved for a time at death. These are the gonads, the cells of Leydig, the adrenals, the thymus, the thyroid and parathyroid, the pineal, and the pituitary. According to the Edgar Cayce readings, the soul functions through these centers in the flesh body. As we begin meditation, our thought forms related to the activity of these centers. The ways we function from these gland areas are stimulated. We become conscious of rediscovering these aspects of ourselves around us and in our dreams. Some of these images can be and frequently are frightening, but the more fear-laden patterns of the mind are our own creations. Consider beginning a personal search of these gland symbols and uncovering their meaning for you. Let's start with a vision or dream experience that has become famous in metaphysical writings, the Old Testament prophet Ezekiel's vision of the four beasts, which is repeated in the Revelation of the New Testament. He saw a bull calf, an androgynous man, a lion, and an eagle. Suppose that the symbols relate to the energies expressed through you, according to what you feel about the symbol. Is the bull a sex symbol for you? How balanced are you between the male-female aspects of self? Does a lion speak to your drive, anger, or fear patterns? is the eagle, which is capable of both killing and tearing, as well as of soaring to great heights, in any way related to your feelings toward yourself and others? One man wrote Edgar Cayce that he had dreamed since childhood of a lion running after him, pulling him down, and beginning to eat his flesh. Cayce told him that his anger was actually destroying body tissue. He admitted to overwhelming fits of uncontrolled rage. A teenage boy who dreamed of an eagle tearing at his chest went through a terrifying experience of adolescent hazing a few days later. Take a look at your own dreams. Go home and examine the pictures on your wall, the knickknacks on your mantle, the designs in your ties and jewelry. You may find some of these figures. Is there a tiger in your tank? A bullfight on your agenda for the trip to Mexico or Spain? A favorite male impersonator of women in one of your favorite television shows? An eagle on your shoulder or in your pocket? In these ways, we preserve our mystery of ourselves all around us. Perhaps Snow White is a symbol of spirit who came to live with the 7 little men who dug for diamonds. Maybe Dopey is not one of the best sex symbols around, but I can't forget that he lined up twice to be kissed, while the rest of the dwarfs were getting reedy, and that he outdanced everyone else. And could Grumpy symbolize the adrenal action? He finally had to be washed by all the rest of the little men. It may be that the Revelation's 7 churches relate to the 7 centers. Edgar Cayce suggests that this book of the Bible is an advanced symbolic study of meditation. Try reading it with this in mind. The following list shows some possible symbols for the 7 glandular centers, collected from metaphysical literature, the Bible, legends, fairy tales, and so on. Use these symbols according to your own readiness to consider their deeper meanings. The 7 churches of the New Testament. The 7 knots on the rope Muhammad saw hanging from heaven. The 7 steps on Mayan pyramids. The 7 sisters of the Pleiades. Snow White's 7 dwarfs. If indeed we can sense that there are 7 major centers of light within ourselves, the points at which the soul functions through the flesh body, then perhaps through prayer and meditation, these higher centers can be awakened, and the energies can flow downward to heal and transform the energies locked in fear patterns to constructive purposes.